My version of the good Vanny ending. When you reach the giant, vault-like door at the end of Princess Quest 3, the game doesn't end there. Instead, with a screen-shaking rumble, the door slowly slides open. Walking inside, you enter a dark room with a gray, concrete platform that crumbles into the endless black void before you. Hanging over the void, bound in purple chains, is the unusually detailed sprite of a blonde security guard with her head down, face obscured by her hat. Quickly, she's yanked off screen with a shriek, before a glitchy, black and purple bunny amalgamation emerges from the shadows, cackling with a sound that's more garble than it is laughter. The green, glitched bunny plushie in your inventory starts vibrating as it moves to the top center of the screen, morphing into a long health bar. Then, the creature attacks the princess, shooting at her with faltering purple bullets in several patterns. A spray attack, a beam attack, and a rain attack. Beyond that, it'll occasionally grow tentacles to slam at you. And, growing out of its own body, it can spawn waves of enemies. You can't hit the beast. If you try, your sword just phases through. But the battle isn't hopeless, because for each enemy it produces, it sacrifices a sliver of health. Once you work the health bar down to 75%, you enter Phase 2. With a dismayed gurgling, the amalgamation sinks back into the void. Then, slowly, the huge, glitchy green outline of bunny ears emerges from the pit, quickly followed by the head and hands of a giant Glitchtrap. A text box appears, reading, "Guided by instinct, you protect yourself from harm," along with a button prompt teaching you how to block. The fight begins again with all new attacks. One where rings of bullets come from the rabbit's eyes in waves. One with pounding fists and shockwaves. One where a giant beam shoots from its wide, grinning mouth. And one where a square of your platform starts to glitch, and stepping into it for more than a second will deal damage. This phase goes from one attack to the next much more quickly, and you still can't hit the beast. No enemies spawn either. But you can reflect the beam and the eye bullets using your new block ability, dealing considerable damage. Once you drain its health all the way down to 25%, you're thrust into Phase 3. The giant Glitchtrap reaches up with both hands and yanks the chained Vanessa back down. The chains begin to glow and crackle as Glitchtrap is absorbed into them. The Vanny mask in your inventory starts vibrating too, before slowly moving and shrinking to fit perfectly over Vanessa's face. With a flash of red light, a knife materializes in her hand. Another text box appears. Steadying your trembling fist, you channel the rage within into your blade. Be thoughtful and aim true. Almost as a demonstration, the princess charges her sword before swinging, letting out a slash of light that shoots from the tip of her blade in an arc, hitting one of the chains. Vanny only attacks with her knife. She slashes like how you just learned, but more, larger, and red. And, occasionally, in the blink of an eye, she'll shoot a high-damage mimic of her knife. Only the knife can be blocked, with quick enough reflexes, and none of it can be reflected. Vanny will absolutely bombard you, attacking the fastest of all, but sometimes she'll get visibly tired and take a moment to breathe, giving you an opening. If you hit Vanny directly, you instantly drain 25% of her health as she lets out an agonized scream. Her sprite will reflect the damage with a slashed shirt and a small trickle of blood. If instead you decide to hit the chains, they will slowly crack the more you hit them. After breaking one of the two chains, she'll fall onto the platform with you, but will be restrained to only half of it. She still uses the same attacks, but they're harder to dodge due to the new angle. If you get too close to her though, she'll slash you directly. This attack is an instant kill. If you lose during this fight though, after a moment of hesitation, white light will surge into the fallen princess, and she'll get back up with full health and glowing white eyes. This only works once. After breaking Vanny's second chain, everything suddenly goes still and silent. Her knife clatters to the floor, and she reaches for her mask. The instant she starts pulling it off, the game freezes, distorts, and shuts down, freeing Vanessa's spirit. However, if you decide to continue attacking Vanny, you get a different ending entirely. Hitting her a second time, she'll scream again, but less intensely. The other side of her shirt will become slashed too, and her attacks will slow. Hitting her a third time, she'll just let out a pained gasp. Her attacks slow to a pathetic crawl. Hitting her a fourth and final time, there's nothing but a long, shuddering breath as she stops moving. The game fades to black. No comic, cutscene, or grassy hill follows. Just a newspaper lying on a dimly lit table. It's advertising that Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex is now hiring a new night guard and facility caretaker. The shadow of bunny ears appears over the newspaper, and a distorted feminine laugh is heard as the rabbit's eyes begin to glow red. My version of the Burntrap ending. All of a sudden, the Pizzaplex feels empty. Roxy, Chica, Monty, Gregory knows they can all still at least move, but they're nowhere to be found. Both Vanny and Vanessa have been strangely silent too, and there even seem to be fewer staff bots. So, following the only lead they can think of, Freddy and Gregory go to investigate the sinkhole at Roxy Raceway. The two delve below the Pizzaplex and into the old Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And not just there either, because there's another, smaller sinkhole in the middle of the showroom's checkered tile. Together, Freddy and Gregory shuffle down what seems to be extremely makeshift stairs. Reaching the bottom, they encounter a beast. It's a giant, amalgamated blob of wires and animatronic parts. The main of the thing's many heads is an old white and pink Freddy. Fortunately, it seems to be sleeping. Gregory inside, Freddy creeps by the creature. But the flimsy floor gives way and he falls, landing in some sort of chamber even deeper into the earth. As Gregory climbs out of Freddy, a deeply bad feeling washes over both of them. Glancing at one of the monitors, Gregory sees something emerging from a charging station. It's a decrepit, old animatronic rabbit that's missing most of its costume, but there's something else tangled up in there too. It looks like teeth and flesh. The thing's hard to make out through the bad camera, but what can easily be seen are its glowing purple eyes. The same eyes Gregory could swear he saw flashes of from Roxy, Chica, Monty, Freddy, and even Vanessa. The thing lumbers toward its own monitors and places a bony, metallic hand on the warped screen. Freddy begins to convulse. He had resisted the virus before, but now, full of his friend's infected parts, his control over himself slips. At the same time, the shattered other animatronics start revealing themselves one by one, and they're not happy. Chica's twisted body clumsily sprints down the left hall, but Gregory leaps for the button and manages to close the door in time. She beats on the glass, but he quickly turns his attention back to the creature on the monitors. Getting an idea and hoping for the best, Gregory pulls out his phaser blaster, aims at the camera above the monitor, and shoots. The screen goes to static, and Freddy stops straining for a moment, just long enough to warn him about Roxy rushing in from the right. Jumping to hide behind some sort of bed, Gregory stays as quiet as possible as the eyeless, hole-riddled wolf sniffs around the room before charging at the wall directly beside him. Slamming into the concrete, Roxy growls with rage as she stumbles back from the recoil, before slinking back out of the room on the left, bringing Chica with her. Freddy begins to twitch again, and Gregory shoots down another camera. But, as soon as he does, a sudden, cacophonous rattling along with a deep, desperately angry voice comes from the overhead vent. Punching the button to close it, Gregory almost takes a deep breath. But it's at that moment that the amalgamation from above decides to join the fun. Wiry, black tentacles snake down from the hole in the ceiling, slithering around the floor, searching as Gregory presses himself closer to the wall. Then, the thing's head pops down and swivels to stare directly at him with its red, pinprick eyes. The tentacles converge into a single, large one, and it slams at him. Ducking out of the way and looking around frantically, Gregory sees the decrepit rabbit beginning to take control of Freddy again. Backed up against a recharge station, he dodges another slam and raises his blaster, shooting the amalgamation in the eye. It does little more than annoy the beast, but Gregory takes the split second that he bought himself to unload the rest of his ammo at the third and final camera across the room, hoping at least one of the shots hits. After a breathless moment, the final monitor goes to static, freeing Freddy. Barely dodging a third slam, Gregory ducks into the recharge station to hide. Peeking out through the glass, Gregory watches the amalgamation jerk its head around, confusedly searching the room, before slowly slinking back up where it came from. The boy finally lets out a long sigh of relief. Then, Freddy speaks.
You did it, superstar! Now, let us end this.
He's interrupted by two skeletal hands grabbing the sides of his head. The light in his eyes flickers out as he falls to his knees and goes limp. The burnt rabbit stands behind him, its piercing stare fixed directly on Gregory. Freddy quickly reboots and stands, his eyes too now a bright purple. "Gregory, get out of there," he says before hitting the glass of the recharge station. "Wouldn't you rather hide in my stomach hatch? I have a surprise for you, superstar." He hits the glass again and it cracks. Behind him, Roxy, Chica, and what's left of Monty crowd in around the rabbit, all the noise attracting the amalgamation again. Its head slithering down once more, Gregory sees no way out. But then, the amalgamation stops looking at Gregory, and its head snaps to the rabbit. With a distorted roar, its faceplates ripple as tentacles flood in to attack. Freddy stumbles back as the purple in his eyes falters. Monty and Chica scramble to help the rabbit. Gregory looks down, grabs his phas camera, and flashes Freddy. Then he leaps from the recharge station and books it down the hallway. Halfway through, though, he hears a voice behind him.
"I heard that."
Desperately sprinting the other half, Gregory turns just in time to see Roxy lunge. With barely a second to spare, he ducks, and she goes flying over his head, followed by a deafening crash. Whipping around, Gregory sees Roxy covered in motor oil and struggling to get up from a pile of barrels. With a quick glance behind him, he does the only thing he can think of. Raising the phas camera above his head, Gregory smashes it on the ground. The shattering machine gives off the tiniest spark, enough for all hell to break loose. Gregory flinching to cover his eyes, Roxy explodes. Then, soon, so does the rest of the place.